Harry and Meghan Markle, they just can't let their Megxit flop go. Yes, the couple initiated Megxit on their own almost 4 years ago now, and they're still complaining about the fallout of their own actions. That's what we get in this new article from a publication called the Byline Times, I think it was. And they were like very excited because they were having their first print piece and it was going to be this expose on the fallout of Megxit. But when you read through it, because I did find a copy of it on Twitter because it is either a physical or you have to purchase a digital edition, what becomes very, very clear is that Harry and Meghan are still complaining about losing out on some of the money Charles was apparently going to give to them. And they tie it all back to this rather innocuous part of one of Harry's legal cases. And I just don't think that's the case. What's really going on here though is that Harry and Meghan effed up. They took this grand thing, which was the monarchy, their position within the royal family, being the son of the future king, all this stuff, and they dropped an atomic bomb on it and then are confused that they're still feeling the fallout of those effects. Harry and Meghan, I'm so sorry, but Megxit was a disaster of your own creation. And so we are going to go through this article today because I think it's important to discuss some of these inaccuracies in this reporting because it is being touted as this great expose, but all it's really doing is dredging up all these things where I'm like, wow, Harry and Meghan, they are still whiny children who refuse to grow up. So that is what we're going to talk about today. But if you guys haven't been to Royal News Network, my name is Brittany. I provide you guys compelling royal commentary about the latest news and the drama going on behind the scenes. I also have a newsletter, a royal fashion channel, all related to royalty, and I also have a membership. So if you're interested in any of those things, all links are down below. I also have a giveaway going on. It's in a particular video, which I will link up here. So if you want to follow that link, you can go to that video. And what you'll do is you'll get the little diamond emoji and you'll tell me what your favorite royal tiara or piece of jewelry is. And you'll be entered to win this limited bracelet from Ana Lucia Diamonds. And I am wearing my earrings today. And these are lab created diamonds. I particularly love these sort of flowery studs ones that I have because they are just so fun, so convenient. And so I wear them all the time and I'm just so enjoying everything. So if you're interested in that, feel free to follow the link that I showed you earlier. And then I also have another link up here to another way you can enter the contest via my fashion video on the tiaras of the Louvre, and I also have it in the newsletter. So guys, I hope you check that out. And before we go into talking about the Byline Times, because it will be a bit of a longer video because I'll pull all the clips through that I think are interesting and want to discuss, we also have some very exciting news that James Middleton, so this is Catherine and Pippa's younger brother, has welcomed his first child with his wife Annalise, and they have had a baby boy named Inigo. And I am so thrilled that they actually gave us his gender and his name. I just really appreciate that because it's like, it's nice because when somebody's sort of a public figure, you kind of want to celebrate it. And I always feel like I understand keeping children private and everything, but it's also somewhat weird to see a famous person goes, that's their child of undetermined name, age, gender, whatever. And it's like, it's just kind of nice to know their name because they're like, oh, I see Indigo now. And so I understand Pippa hasn't done it, but I do think it's lovely. James obviously has a social media presence and he understands too that as somebody who is advocating for mental health issues and those sorts of things and has decided to have this public profile, it's just nice to let people in a bit, not too much. We don't need to be in the delivery room with you, but it is nice to be included on some of these things. So bravo to James and Annalise. I hope they are having a wonderful time bonding with their new little boy and all their dogs as well. And I hope they are enjoying the little bundle too. Okay. This Byline Times thing. So I saw this coming through on my Twitter. I think it started on Wednesday. And I'm like, what is this? I don't even know. And I'm just looking at it going, oh, that sounds so dumb because, you know, they're dragging up Dan Wootton again and complaining about stuff. Like, I feel like we've been over 12 times at this point. And then it just kind of grew and grew. And I was like, okay, I really need to read this. I couldn't read the full thing, but I read some of the clips. And oh boy, are there some doozies in there. Especially regarding how highly Harry and Meghan think of themselves. It's really quite incredible to see two very unaccomplished people think that they are the same level of security risk as the Queen. This literally says that in this article, that they think their security risk is comparable to the Queen of England. And now obviously we have the King and Queen. That's just not true. That's just not true. Because most of the time, if you are looking to enact change, if you're really wanting to get your name in the history books, which we've had some people do, you know, you have the shooting of John Lennon and Ronald Reagan, and you could even say John F. Kennedy Jr., a couple other people. There is reasons for that, and they are high-ranking people. Harry is not that. Harry is not the president of the United States. He's not the heir to the throne. He is not the king. He's not a world-renowned musician. Prince Harry is an ex-royal, and he is a spare. I'm sorry, but nobody is as interested in the spare Harry as they would be in the Queen, Prince Charles, and Prince William at the time. Because if you, God forbid, if something happened to them, that could have actually radical impact on the world in the way Harry just doesn't. That's just the facts of the situation. But Harry is so consumed, him and Meghan, with their own self-delusions regarding their importance, regarding what happens within the monarchy and everything like that, that they just didn't even recognize that what they were believing is actually rather dumb. It just doesn't even work. So looking at this article series, I was like, I just wanted to almost bypass it because I thought it was so dumb. But as you look through it, it's like there's some pretty serious things in there that I feel like need to be addressed, and some truths to this non-truthful reporting, because some of it I feel like is motivated by dislike of Dan Wootton. I don't have super strong opinions on Dan Wootton, but I will say that this attempt to discredit him also goes hand in hand with trying to reaccredit, you could say, Harry and Meghan. Because if you discredit Dan, then what some of the things he said about Harry and Meghan can be dismissed. And while I will say I don't think everything Dan Wootton said is true, I don't think everything Dan Wootton has said is false, but I'm sure there were some truths there that Harry and Meghan don't like. And because of that, if they and their supporters can get rid of him, oh my goodness, you can save Harry and Meghan. Not so fast. But it is an interesting thing to consider here. So let's go into the first little bit. It initially starts talking about how this funding of $700,000, which I did some research on, and I couldn't really figure out where exactly they got this number because it wasn't being reported around that time, was pulled from Harry and Meghan because in a legal document that Harry was filing against one of the myriad of, media lawsuits he's trying to pursue, one of them mentioned that a staff member of Catherine and William's, and I think by extension Harry and Meghan's, Christian Jones, apparently his partner, could have received money from the Sun for stories on Harry and Meghan. Now, this was a very paltry number, £4,000, which I guess when you convert it is a little better. But honestly, the pound has dipped quite a bit, so it's not that much. I would say maybe in American that would be, I don't know, at most 5,000, but I don't even think that. So this wasn't it's a lot of money, but it's not like, he's getting $100,000 or something like that. And in addition to that, there's no guarantee. He said they had done an investigation, and he and his partner claimed that it was just for a different story. So we're not exactly sure, but this is the premise apparently for pulling that money and the security funding from Harry and Meghan. But that doesn't even make any sense because Harry and Meghan at this point had launched Megxit, and they were no longer the British monarchy's problem in a way. Harry and Meghan decided they wanted to go on their own. And guess what? You have to put on your big boy britches. You have to grow up. And so that means that you can fund your own $700,000 security or whatever, because Harry and Meghan definitely have that money. They just didn't want to pay it. So let's get further into the article here. It came just 3 months into the trial period and led directly to the Duke and Duchess of Sussex having to enter into private commercial arrangements in the US to pay for an estimated $3 million a year cost of 24-hour security for their family. Okay, number one, Harry and Meghan don't need 24-hour security for their family. Yes, should they have a security system at home? Yes, should they have some security people go around with them from time to time? Yes. But are they Taylor Swift? Taylor Swift apparently just passed the $1 billion net worth mark. Harry and Meghan are worth maybe tens of millions of dollars, maybe? So this idea that somehow they would be a bigger target than Taylor Swift is just ridiculous. Again, the delusions in their own mind regarding their security is a bit ridiculous. And even though they were in this trial period, at this point, the monarchy knew they were probably not coming back. And the monarchy, because it was going to be $1.7 million to pay for their security in Canada, the royal family can't pay for somebody's ridiculous, exorbitant security costs upwards of $3 million a year for two people who aren't working for them, who are doing their own thing. I'm sure that came down from REVIC, which is the Royalty and Public Persons Executive Committee, was like determining, okay, we can't afford to pay millions of dollars per year for two people, taxpayer money, who are not working or representing the government in any form or function. And they've decided they want to do this. So we're going to let them do this. Guess what? If you're going to leave, you're going to have to pick up the tab. This is life. If you leave a job, you don't get to keep the perks. When I left my job, I didn't get to take my healthcare with me. Now, I could have paid COBRA if I pay somebody else now to have healthcare coverage, but I couldn't just say, well, I'm going to leave. I'm not going to work for you anymore, but can you still keep my healthcare coverage on? Thank you. I really appreciate that. No, that's just not how it works in the real world. But Harry and Meghan don't live in the real world, and apparently neither do their followers, because again, this reporting is shoddy, I think. Goes on to say, one well-placed source with knowledge of the matter told the Byline Times, and these are massive, massive quotes, by the way. I noticed that they would go on for paragraphs. And what I thought was weird is that you should also as well be interspersing it with different things. And it seemed like this was all coming from one single source, because it just was paragraphs long of comments. So it says, they threatened the removal of funding to try and protect the royal household from a potential courtroom scandal with Jones and Wootton very publicly at the center. The actual removal of the funding weeks later was about control and designed to force Harry and Meghan to come back to the senior royal family in the UK, where their security would be assured. Okay, that could happen. Harry and Meghan could go back to the UK and get their security assured if they wanted to work for the monarchy. You can't get your security assured if you're not working for the monarchy. That's not how this works. Security, international security, is not a handout. You actually have to give something for that, because when you go through all this thing, it's just so evident that Harry and Meghan want all the perks, all the money, all the privileges, but they don't want to do any of the work or have any of the responsibilities for this whole operation. And that's just unrealistic for two grown adults in their mid to late 30s to demand. That's just stupid. You can't do that. And it's backfiring on them massively, continually, and it will continue to do so, because Harry and Meghan are not sharp people. We'll get further down in that later in a little bit. But the whole Megxit thing was their own atomic bomb that they detonated on themselves, and then are surprised that there's nothing left. They're like, wait, what? Why aren't you giving us security? I mean, we are more important than the Queen, don't you know? I'm like, no, they're not. They're not more important than the Queen. Royalty is all about hierarchy, and they're lower in the hierarchy totem pole. It just is what it is. And this idea as well that the royal family wanted them to come back into the fold, I think has somewhat validity, because the Queen genuinely loved Harry and Meghan. She wanted them to continue working for the family. Charles wanted them to continue working for the family. Catherine and William did too, because if Harry and Meghan left, then everything is basically consigned to just Charles, Camilla, Catherine, and William, and then the whole burden of the monarchy essentially falls on George, Charlotte, and Louis. Harry and Meghan were going to be a great stopgap between the Wales' kids growing up and the old guard retiring. But Harry and Meghan are two selfish people. They don't want to help or support anybody else. They only want to help themselves. And so they initiated this and then are shocked that there's a massive fallout to it. But there had to be a fallout. The monarchy could not indulge Harry and Meghan to the extent that they wanted them to. It would be bad when it comes to public perception. The taxpayers would hate it. There's just so much wrong with it that would never, ever work. Source added, the greater truth is that Harry and Meghan make better headlines than the King and Camilla or William and Kate. The idea of them still being in public service but abroad and out of the control of the institution and dominating the media narrative just couldn't happen. And I will say, and this goes back to the other comment about control. Yes, the monarchy wanted control because Harry and Meghan are loose cannons who seem to want to do whatever they want to do without forethought or any consideration to the rest of the monarchy. You don't want loose cannons like that. No business wants two people going roughshod, doing their own thing, and yet claiming to be representing something like the monarchy. That's not how this works. Any business would hate it. You can't go, if you leave your job, you can't go around saying, I represent such and such, and trying to proclaim either they're bad or good without actually working for that company. That's not how this world works. And to think that they could do that is just, again, lunacy. I mean, really, they are loons. That's the only thing I can think of when it comes to this. And this idea that they make better headlines, yeah, they do. Terrible headlines. People love the negative coverage. I was looking on Twitter last night, and let me make sure I grabbed their handle correctly. So George Warwick essentially said that even though they've left in part to stop the negative coverage, it's continued. They are still constantly generating negative media coverage, and that is on Harry and Meghan. People don't like them. People like Charles and the Queen and William and Catherine. Yes, not as many articles are written about them, you could say, but everything about Catherine and William is always glowing and positive. Everything about Harry and Meghan is negative. And because they've created this negative narrative around themselves. So yes, Harry and Meghan perhaps sometimes dominate the headlines more, but it's always grossly negative, and the monarchy comes out looking positive. So in the way, the monarchy is like, oh, maybe you should just keep going on these negative Harry and Meghan stories because, you know, kind of looks good for us. Not encouraging necessarily the media to do so, but just recognizing that, hey, Harry and Meghan, people don't like them. And I think Harry and Meghan need to realize that too. Because if they recognize where the fault is, which is not in the press coverage itself, but themselves, they could solve a lot of their own problems. But overall, regardless of who is dominating the headlines, who dominates the monarchy is still the king and queen and the prince and princess of Wales. That's how this works. So regardless of what press coverage Harry and Meghan are getting, they are usually the sources of mockery. They are not lifted up as examples to follow, whereas the rest of the royals broadly are. Harry and Meghan are kind of the trolls in the corner. Sometimes it's unfair, I will admit, but a lot of times it's sort of deserved. And if they could just recognize that they are the source of their own failures, I think would help so much. Stop trying to blame everybody else and thinking everybody else is jealous of you. They're not. They're proud they're not you. They're proud they're not you because they look so much better because you continue to make yourself look so bad to the public. That is what's going on here. Senior members of the family wanted them back after the transition period and were ready to continue playing dirty to make this happen. They never thought the trial period would work and tried everything to make it fail, starting with removal of security and then signing off on a 12-month assault by the UK press on Harry and Meghan and everyone in their orbit. Are you joking? Are you joking? No, that's not what happened. I think the monarchy, again, would have been fine if Harry and Meghan came back, but I think honestly the monarchy expected them to fail because they realized Meghan Markle is a talentless hack and Harry's dim as a broken bulb. So they knew the two of them would not do too well. They knew that. I think they knew that better than anyone. And so they're like willing to like, well, we'll let you go. But thinking in the back of our minds, we think you'll fail and you'll want to come crawling back, which is exactly what has happened. Even in their Harry and Meghan Netflix reality TV series, they're advocating for the return to the monarchy in many ways. Because Meghan Markle is mixed race, she is essential, and her children are essential to the future of the monarchy. Not the king and queen, not the prince and princess of Wales. Her, Meghan Markle, is essential to the future of the British monarchy. That is not true. That is not true. We don't know what the future holds for George, Charlotte, and Louis. The Wales' kids could marry somebody of mixed race themselves. And I don't think anybody would bat an eye. That is not the issue. But Harry and Meghan constantly making it the issue is just what's a bit ridiculous. And the monarchy wanted control because Harry and Meghan could do so much damage, which they have, trying to do their own thing. They have interfered in politics. They have done stunts like Meghan Markle going to the site of where children were massacred in order to promote herself. So many things that the couple have done that erodes the branding of the monarchy. And that's why I've called for a greater separation between the monarchy and Harry and Meghan. It's because Harry and Meghan constantly, because the separation isn't clear, are still trading off that real connection to try to get inroads in places. And I think the monarchy needs to make it clear with people that Harry and Meghan represent no one but themselves and their own self-interests. Because I think some people are generally confused or don't know quite how to handle them because they feel like they have to be deferential because they're connected to the monarchy, even though they're not. Again, all this is very complicated, but you can understand why the monarchy is worried about somebody like Harry and Meghan going out there and causing a fuss in different situations.
Before we move on to the next quote, I realized I forgot to mention this in my original recording, but the idea that the monarchy wanted the media to have 12 months of negative coverage on Harry and Meghan is just dumb. That is just dumb. That just wasn't going to happen. And Harry and Meghan did stupid things that caused a lot of people to look at them in a negative light, like them going to and doing the JP Morgan event where Harry was paid somewhere around like $700,000 for an appearance. Those things do generate negative headlines. The media didn't have to have this palace directive to seek out negative headlines. The public was already salivating for them because Harry and Meghan, once again, they initiated Megxit. The rest of the world was like, oh, that's interesting. We want to know more about how these two people who had every opportunity in the world are going to mess this up. That is what the rest of the world was thinking. So this silly idea that Harry and Meghan and their team have that the British media establishment was conspiring against them, no, that's just simply not true. The British media is just looking at them going, wow, they really messed it up. And everybody's salivating for the latest Harry and Meghan train wreck. So you know what? We're going to give it to them. And that's what Harry and Meghan set up for themselves. The British monarchy didn't have to ask the media to do it. Harry and Meghan were just a gift that kept on giving.
As far as the institution of the monarchy went, the Sussexes had either to be safely in the tent in Britain or cast away and castigated as comprehensively as possible in order to reduce the threat of them eclipsing the rest of the family. It's no surprise they have endured such degrading time from such a willing British media when the same just isn't true elsewhere in the world. I would say that's not true anymore. Most of the coverage I see of Harry and Meghan, even in the United States, is turning negative. It's all turning negative. And the monarchy isn't worried about Harry and Meghan eclipsing them. Why do they need to worry? They're the British monarchy, honey. They are the most powerful institution in the world. What they're worried about is somebody damaging their reputation, which Harry and Meghan are doing. That's what they've been doing the past 4 years, is damaging the reputation of the monarchy, the family, individual family members, in their vendetta because they didn't get their way because they are children. The couple were trying to take the monarchy hostage with their Megxit announcement without actually having any hostages. You can't negotiate if you have no leverage. Harry and Meghan had literally no leverage. Ergo, they lost. They lost, and that's because of their own stupidity. That has nothing to do with the monarchy. The monarchy had to let them go because they wanted to go. And I have no doubt Meghan wanted to make inroads in Hollywood, so she was perfectly fine with that. But she wanted that backbone of the monarchy. She wanted to lean on it, to go and do the fancy galas and everything, remind everybody that she's a princess now. But of course, the monarchy's like, we can't let you do that because we don't trust your intentions. That's what I think people don't realize too. The monarchy knew as well as anybody else they could not trust the intentions of Meghan Markle. So even if she said she was going to do A, they knew she was going to do B and C and D. They knew it. So they had to act accordingly. As part of a 3-year special investigation into the professional and personal conduct of Dan Wootton. So yeah, this is all about Dan Wootton, guys. At the end of the day, this is all about hatred for Dan Wootton. Byline Times has spoken to several sources with connections to the royal household about how the partner of Christian Jones, a publicist, came to be paid £4,000 by Rupert Murdoch's son in August 2019, allegedly for articles relating to the Sussexes. It is understood that the professional publicist admits to receiving payments but has claimed they were for other stories about reality television star with a similar name to the Duchess of Sussex. I mean, is this all they have, this breaking story? And here's the thing too, how much were Meghan's friends paid for coverage? I imagine a lot. How oftentimes did they, and how much were Harry and Meghan paid to promote their own coverage? I'm sure a lot too. So this idea that's all on the royal system, Catherine and William and everything, why the coverage of Harry and Meghan turned so negative is just wrong. It's just false. Harry and Meghan can't stand that people don't like them. And this was funny. Megxit apparently caused a constitutional crisis and wrongly claimed that Prince Harry had blindsided his then 93-year-old grandmother, provoking a widespread public backlash, when in fact, according to Spare, the Queen had been aware of it since 3rd of January. Okay, I don't believe that, number one. And even if Harry had said, I'm thinking of leaving, he still didn't give them the announcement that he was going to make this public until like minutes before it happened. That is blindsiding. You're splitting hairs here. Yes, they were familiar with the possibility that Harry and Meghan wanted to leave, but did they think the two would press the nuclear button? No, because that's stupid. That's a stupid thing to do. It's so dumb, guys. I can't even go into how essentially quite stupid Harry and Meghan's whole plan was. It's a very dumb plan, to be honest. Very, very dumb. A second source with links to the royal households told the Byline Times that the Christian Jones problem promised to drag the hidden dealings between the palaces and the press into the public domain. So again, this is all about proving that the palace had it out for Harry and Meghan and that they were all conspiring against Harry and Meghan, which I don't think is true. And also I think Harry and Meghan were such pains in the butt that it was easy to go up to any royal household and go, hey, can you give me dirt on Harry and Meghan? And people are like, let me tell you about these two. That's what happened. They were nasty to people. They were rude to people. They bullied people. And guess what? When you're mean, nasty, rude, and a bully, people tend to want to talk because they have no incentive to protect you. So if you are a high-level individual, let's say Taylor Swift. Let's bring Taylor Swift into this again. And let's say she was doing something, you could say that would lead to negative press on her tour. Now, not saying this happened at all, but let me give you an example of why this won't get out. Because she paid all of her tour members like $100,000 bonus or something like that. I'm not sure of the details, please forgive me, but it was something to that effect. And what that causes oftentimes is loyalty. Her staff members will be loyal to her because she was nice. She gave them money. She appreciated the work that they did. So that engenders a trust and a level of loyalty that you don't get when you're mean, nasty, and rude to your staff members. Yes, they're constrained by an NDA, but even then, things will get out because they don't like you. What Catherine and William have done, I think, really well is become very good friends with a lot of their staff members. Yes, there is a separation because they're the boss and everything, but they don't treat them as servants. Harry and Meghan treated staff members as servants. And guess what? People don't like to be treated like that. And because of that, they have no incentive to protect you. They have no desire to protect you. In fact, they're more than happy to share dirt on you because they don't like you. Now, I'm not saying that entirely happened and that what's going on behind the scenes, but I wouldn't be surprised either. And because the reaction to the Oprah Winfrey interview announcement was the bullying allegations, because they're like, this woman is going to go on television and she's going to lie again about how she was treated. And we are her staff members and we treated her well, but she treated us very badly. Harry and Meghan invite this because of their own actions. That is the truth of the situation. He wanted to know how their private information, this is Harry, kept being spun into negative headlines in the biggest newspapers. Well, Harry, I can tell you why right now. When your wife goes and has a $100,000 baby shower in New York City, utilizing my taxpayer dollars to augment her security, yeah, that's gonna generate negative headlines, buddy. That should not be rocket science. Any idiot could tell her that. And I'm sure they did. And she didn't listen to them. She didn't care. Because to her, this was all about the arrival of Meghan Markle. This was not about thinking about the British people. She just wanted to cash in on herself. He and Meghan had been stung very badly by the timing and manner of Wootton's reporting on their plans to live part of the year abroad, which wasn't even a new idea as the Queen had previously given her blessing for a move to South Africa, which hadn't worked out. I don't think for a second Meghan Markle wanted to live in South Africa or anywhere near Africa. She always wanted Hollywood. This is a woman who strived her entire life to be as famous as possible. And you're not famous in South Africa. I'm sorry, you're just not. Yes, there are people who are famous in South Africa, but you being in South Africa puts her as far away from Hollywood as she could possibly get. And that wasn't going to work for Meghan Markle. And I'm sure she just indulged that for a bit, knowing it probably wouldn't work. The reality is that the story got out. And Harry and Meghan could have either denied it or actually come to an agreement with the monarchy before attempting to blow up the hostages before they even started the hostage crisis. That's what they should have done. But no, Harry and Meghan, again, not the sharpest. They are terrible negotiators. They are terrible business people. This proves it. A view was quickly taken within the royal households that everything needed to be brought under control. Yes, you understand why, because Harry and Meghan are loose cannons. The removal of the transition funding, which Prince Charles knew was his son's only lifeline to keeping safe. The guy who has millions in the bank needed his daddy's $700,000 to feel safe for himself. Was considered a very effective way of trying to bring Harry and Meghan to the heel in the UK, but it didn't work. Again, Harry and Meghan come off here sounding very childish. Well, Daddy wouldn't give me $700,000, and so we can't protect ourselves. I mean, we need money. I'm a 35-year-old man, but give me money, please. I mean, I have no sympathy for Harry. I really don't. Because you are a grown man, buddy. Pay your own stinking bills. Pay your own stinking bills. You are a 35-year-old man with a family. You don't need your daddy's handout. And if you couldn't survive on your own, then don't do something stupid and tell the entire world that you're leaving the monarchy with no plan except your own. You didn't work with the Queen to figure out the details or anything in Charles. You wanted to force the monarchy's hand to capitulate. And the monarchy had all the leverage. They had all the leverage. So you doing this gave the monarchy the opportunity to go, hey, you know what? Let's just, recollections may vary, so we're just going to leave you on your own, buddy. I realized that was the wrong thing. But anyways, I realized that was from the Oprah Winfrey interview. But still, it's like, they're like, yeah, what do you want us to do? Like, this was your decision. I'm sure so many of the royal staff members were sitting there scratching their hands going, do you think these morons realized that things wouldn't go their way? Apparently they didn't. Like, really? I mean, it just boggles the mind. It makes you severely question the intelligence of Harry and Meghan. Like, why would you go into business with two people stupid enough to initiate Megxit and not actually have leverage in the negotiations, not actually be able to come to an agreement before announcing something? Now, there's ways to do that. So, for example, I think it was Comcast or Charter. I can't remember which one. One of the cable companies in the United States, they were going to have to pay an exorbitant amount for ESPN, which is owned by Disney. Disney is going through a hard financial time, so I think they were hiking up the prices because they wanted more money. And the cable companies are like, no. So they went through the negotiations for a period of time. Disney wasn't budging on their outrageous demands. And Comcast has a huge network, I think, of maybe like almost 100 million households or something like that. And so they looked at Disney and they went, no, we're not going to sign this deal. And they announced it. And Disney, I believe, eventually capitulated because Disney didn't have the leverage they needed in this situation. Disney needed the money. Comcast knew that. Comcast had more power in this situation. So they properly leveraged this negotiation process. Harry and Meghan had no leverage. They had no leverage. And so I think somebody said, and I think this is somewhat true, their leverage they thought was their popularity. But the monarchy's like, you're the spare, you're disposable. I mean, we even got rid of King Edward, the Queen's uncle, and the whole thing still worked out. So, we're not really gonna fuss over this because you don't have enough to make it worth our while to keep you. You and your wife are difficult. You've dropped completely in the polls since you walked in. So your guys' popularity has tanked. So why would we need you? You're not the most popular royal anymore. Harry may have been able to pull that off when he was one of the most popular royals, but his popularity just kept tanking after Meghan entered the picture and just continued into oblivion, and her popularity was low too. So they just didn't have any leverage. They told the Byline Times, you need to understand the competition that is constantly in play between the offices of the senior members of the royal family. Each has their own staff and their own agendas. The primary objective is to protect the institution of the monarchy. Yes, that is their objective. And there is a game at play. You could say the courtier world is still very alive. Even though it's not as backstabby and beheady as it was before, there are still machinations at play within royal courts. And there is a level of competition, 100%. But in order to be competitive, you need to have a player in the game. And Harry and Meghan just didn't really have a player. They had a two-bit player 12th down the line. Whereas Catherine and William, and again, Charles and Camilla, had all the power in this situation. Harry and Meghan didn't plan well enough to make themselves competitive in this situation. It also says Charles and Camilla were obviously at the top of the tree and were even when the Queen was alive. I would probably agree with that in part because the Queen was sort of pseudo-retired at that point. She was still doing engagements, but her mobility was failing, and so Charles had to take up a lot of the slack. William and Catherine, next. Anything that threatens the hierarchy or the public perception of it is a problem to be dealt with. Yes, because when you disrupt the hierarchy, you disrupt the institution. This is not a complicated process. When you have, let's say you have a company and you have a whole CEO suite, you have senior vice presidents and presidents, and you have, let's say, a manager. If a manager is trying to be the CEO, that's a problem. That's a problem. That's like it in any business. It's a hierarchy. Yes, it's because of birth order and nothing else. And yes, I know that kind of sucks, but that's life, buddy. You just got to deal with it. You can't complain about something you cannot change. Since quite often these problems are tackled through tactical use of the press, the offices of each family member have their own relationships with the very top people at the newspapers. If there are specific messages they wish to express, then it will usually be through the Mail on Sunday, and the Sun, or less frequently through the Times and Sunday Times. These papers continually report briefings spoon-fed from the palace without questioning them. This is why it was such a problem when Christian Jones was named in those legal letters. Whether it was true or not true, that information Jones collected in the course of his work was ending up in the Sun was not really the point. Okay, I don't totally get that, but anyways. And to a certain extent, that's probably somewhat true, but it's interesting that the Telegraph isn't mentioned here, which I think is kind of interesting. And what about Harry and Meghan? Have Harry and Meghan not planted stories too? Like, this whole idea that it's everybody conspiring against Harry and Meghan is just ridiculous. I've been watching Royals for 10 plus years, very closely. I will tell you right now, the volume of stories that came out after Meghan Markle entered the pictures was massive. And it could be a combination of things. It could be Meghan's friends, and the palace officials who hated her. Those could all be in play, I think. There's the whole idea that it's all about the other palaces, I think, is wrong, and that Harry's trying to blame his family for his and Meghan's own failures is stupid because it's his fault. Megxit was your idea. I mean, we all know it was Meghan's, but you went along with it, Harry. You just, I mean, you know, you F around, you find out. That's a saying, and I think that fits here. The point is that the royal family is doing deals and trades with the press all the time for favorable coverage and protection and to maintain public relevance. The naming of Christian Jones threatened to shine a light on the entire unethical relationship between the institution and the press barons, and that could not be tolerated and had to be punished. I don't think anybody's stupid enough to think that the royal family doesn't have a couple of press people in their back pocket. I mean, every politician, every actor, actress, whatever, you have press people you rely on. Harry and Meghan right now, it's People magazine. Let's be real here. I have no doubt that some sources in the newspaper were directly fed by the palace. When it comes to the bullying allegations, I don't think the people who are the victims of that went public without the approval of Prince William and the approval of the palace. I think they went to Prince William and asked him, we want to go on the record with Valentine Lowe, very respectable reporter, and share our stories. And the palace is like, we won't investigate you in order to show how you violated your NDAs. We'll let it go because it served them, and it also allowed the staff members, because the royal family was constrained and the staff members knew that. Again, the staff members, like the rest of the royals, they don't like Harry and Meghan. They wanted to protect themselves and the royal employers because they're like, Harry and Meghan are gonna lie here. We know it because we were there. That's why they did it. And that's the differences here. I mean, because the thing is, where else are these news stories coming from? Except for the palace officials, friends, and family. Like, where else would these stories be coming from? That they don't just metastasize out of thin air. I mean, a lot of them do. You know, how many times has Kate been pregnant with baby number 4? I don't know. But like they do metastasize from somewhere, but a lot of times it is royal sources, and those very connected because the royals are like, hey, I want you to say such and such to the newspaper. The celebrities do the exact same thing. People magazine is basically a place for celebrities to share the story that they want to be out there in a positive way. People magazine is broadly incredibly positive and always takes the celebrity side. That's what it is. And so it appears that the monarchy chose side with a press secretary over Prince Harry. And that is how this dramatically ends. But why wouldn't they take the side of a press secretary over Prince Harry? He had bullied staff. Him and his wife had abused their royal privileges when it came to tours. They had been difficult to work with. They had basically made the monarchy's life so difficult. And the monarchy at the end of the day too has to consider that we need to protect our staff, because if we constantly protect our members who are abusive to other people, then when we ask something of our staff members, we ask their confidence, we ask their trust, they won't, because we let this member over here abuse them. That's the reality of this. Harry made that choice possible. It's Harry's actions that made that choice possible. Meghan Markle's as well. They made it so that the monarchy, when having to choose, and I'm talking about the monarchy as a business, you could say, as a political entity, business, or whatever. When the monarchy had to choose between Prince Harry and their staff, they had to choose their staff because Prince Harry made it impossible to do otherwise. Now, when it comes to family, yes, of course they would choose Harry. But this isn't family, this is a business. And this is an institution that's 1,000 years old, and it didn't become that because it coddled members. It became that from being oftentimes ruthless and being able to see the practicalities of the situation, not trying to indulge individual family members. Was there indulgence? Of course there was. Were there bad actors? Of course there was. But the monarchy only survives because you have to make the difficult decisions. And yes, that was a difficult decision, but it was one the monarchy had to make. And this entire article series is basically a series of complaints about Harry and Meghan's own stupid mistakes. Megxit was their fault. It was their fault. They wanted to do that, and they didn't think they'd have to suffer with the consequences. And oh yeah, the whole thing blows up in their face, and they're like, it's the monarchy. And it's like, no, it's you. You were the one who decided to do this. You were the one who decided to leave. You were the one to decide to go out half-cocked and go, you know what, we're just going to announce this and everybody's going to go along with it. And the monarchy ended up going, wait, I'm so sorry, we can't do this. We can't indulge your whims like this. We just can't, because we have a bigger goal here. The monarchy, to survive, has to be greater than individual desire sometimes. You have to think of the broader picture. You can't just go, well, I want X. Because sometimes the monarchy can't do that. You can't get everything you want in life. You can't get everything you want in difficult situations. And if Harry and Meghan wanted the Megxit deal they wanted to get, then they needed to keep their mouths shut. And they needed to work with the family to create a plan that worked, that everybody agreed with before announcing it. They announced it because they were stupid. They thought they were driving off their delusions and narcissism to go, the monarchy needs us so much, the monarchy loves us so much, the public loves us so much, that they're just going to go along with it. And the monarchy's like, no, we can't do that. We can't do that. We love you. Which I have no doubt the monarchy loves Harry and Meghan, or at least some of the members do. We love you, but we can't do this. We cannot allow you to drag our name through the mud in order to satisfy your own desires. And it's time for you to grow up. And so that is what the Byline Times article is about. So you guys can check it out for yourselves. Let me know what you think, and let me know, do you think Harry and Meghan will ever grow up? Because they sound increasingly childish to me. So guys, thanks so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye.